Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
You are listening to the Seattle Shrimp Tank, coming to you every other Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time from currently the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio until we can resume broadcasting in our physical Whedon Unleashed studio. I'm Brad Berger, along with my esteemed co-host Dan Whedon. You can always catch a replay of the podcast at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle and through iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes so you never miss an episode. And if you are subscribed to any of these services, please rate our podcast. Your feedback helps us grow and improve. Our guest for today's podcast is Vanessa Smith with Blue Ribbon Cooking. Welcome, Vanessa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You bet. And Dan, I guess, welcome back to me.
Welcome back to you. I have a bigger question. First of all, I'm excited about today's guest because you know that I love to cook, and I wore my cooking shirt today because I have lots and lots of questions for Vanessa, but I have a question for you.
You got it.
Since we're doing this whole Whedon Unleashed virtual studio, I want to know what's happened to the real studio. What's happened to it? Does anybody care for it? Does anybody maintain it? Is it just by its lonesome there?
No, it's still physically present.
It is.
And in fact, producer Sue, right? Executive producer extraordinaire Sue, as well as Tiara, take really good care. That's where Sue is right now.
Okay. So it's being utilized because
it is actually being utilized.
I was a little bit worried about that, Brad.
Yeah, and of course, you know, if it weren't for social distancing, I could be in there because I happen to be just about 2 offices over from the real Unleashed Whedon studio.
Well, before we go on to Vanessa, it's interesting. Normally, we would be doing this live streaming on Facebook, which we've been doing. And I guess we have to talk about being nimble. We tried about 7 times to connect, and for whatever reason, we never connected. I think it's Mark Zuckerberg's fault. I don't know. Maybe he's got too many games and stuff going on there now, but we're nimble. We're going to keep moving on. Everybody will get to hear this, to see this. And we're excited for our next guest. I think we have a lot to talk about. So Brad, I think we need to dive in, don't we?
Yeah, you're right. And you know, one of the things that our show depends upon largely are referrals from our listeners, referral from our prior guests. And in this particular case, we've learned that Vanessa has, obviously she came to us from what we affectionately refer to as the mothership. That's Atlanta, where the shrimp tank idea was born and the concept was put into place. And Vanessa was very interested and actually contacted our office there in Atlanta to say, hey, I'd love to be a guest. And we've come to learn that we've got, in addition to Vanessa, another raving fan, and that's her brother.
What's your brother's name?
Who never misses an episode. We need to give him a shout out.
What's your brother's name?
Barkley Webster.
Barkley Webster. I love that name.
That's
Barkley.
Awesome.
We love you, man. That's awesome.
Right. Don't forget to rate us. Right.
Yeah, 5. I don't expect anything less than a 5.
Thank you. He's going to be so impressed.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a great bio. You want me to read this, Brad?
I'd love you to tell our audience and our listeners all about Vanessa.
So here we're going to tee it up. Vanessa Smith was born and raised to throw parties for a living. I like her already. Growing up in a cooking school with a very artistic eye, Vanessa developed a love for helping people celebrate life's milestones and helping bring back families to the dining table. Vanessa launched into business ownership at the age of 23, and within 3 years was running a company with over 90 employees. When Vanessa is not planning parties for her clients, she enjoys savoring, I like that, savoring moments with her husband and young family at their home in Seattle. Vanessa brings determination, hands-on leadership, and an incredible hard work ethic to all of life's adventures. Welcome to the Seattle Shrimp Tank, Vanessa and Blue Ribbon Cooking.
Thank you.
So I do have a question right off the bat, Vanessa, because when we've had guests come, sometimes they bring us things. What did you bring us to eat today?
You got to bring me in studio and you have to bring tea.
See,
We'll
see
leave it at that. I always do bring treats too.
I
Like,
know
I
this.
never show up anywhere without goods. Like
And
that's
this was Sue and I were talking before, and it was like, I bet Vanessa would have brought us something to eat. Darn COVID, we can't
absolutely.
meet. We're gonna have you back to make sure of that. So let me ask you this. This is kind of the easiest softball question to get started.
Yes.
But had you been meeting us in our studio,
Yes.
what would we be savoring right now?
Ooh, it would have been a tough call because we've been working on so many new things, especially with this, like, this kind of interesting time we have. So last week's was all about croissants. We became like madly obsessed with croissants. So I don't know if I still would have been playing with that this week, but yeah, we were like literally making any kind of croissant that we could possibly make just to we were working with laminate doughs and trying to figure that all out. So
Very cool.
yeah, it's always just totally dependent on the day. I'm like, let's do this today, or I feel like doing something else.
So this is an opportunity, Vanessa, to kind of educate our audience and everybody about Blue Ribbon Cooking. What is it? What do you do? And kind of how do you differentiate yourself from, oftentimes what could be considered to be a crowded space?
Yeah, definitely. So Blue Ribbon Cooking kind of has two different sides to it. We have our cooking school side, which we're very well known for. And we mainly focus on corporate team building cooking classes. So we're working with Microsoft, Costco, Amazon, Starbucks, a lot of the Pacific Northwest large companies, and some very big names, teaching them kind of how to bond over the butcher block, per se.
Okay.
So we bring them together, we put them completely out of their element, sometimes in a competitive layout and sometimes in a collaborative layout, and we have them work together in a kitchen setting, which tends to really bring people together. So, just like if you are in your home and you're bringing people together, you seem to always end up in the kitchen. We find that the kitchen's a good replacement for the boardroom. It just kind of brings a more casual setting to that mingling environment. So that's one side. In the cooking school side, we also have a cooking school for kids and families. We do a lot of like date night cooking classes, and then we have full week-long kids summer cooking camp programs as well too. Then the other side of our company is our event side. So we own and partner with several different large event venues in the city, and we do weddings, corporate galas, everything from like box lunch caterings to full sit-down meals for 1,000 people. I mean, we're literally all over the entire state of Washington catering and doing full event production. So we own all of our own rentals. We have our own in-house florists, pastry chefs. We do our own wedding cakes. We have event designers. So that side of the company is also very large and really kind of takes over a lot of Seattle's event scene.
Sure.
So
And your facilities then for the cooking classes where you call it boardroom to butcher block, that's at one of your facilities or at your facility?
Yeah, our cooking school's on East Lake Union in Seattle. So we're right on
Okay.
pilings over the lake and look at Gasworks Park and the Space Needle. So.
That's awesome.
So Vanessa, we joked a little bit about being nimble this morning because we couldn't log into Facebook, but you had to be nimble, I'm sure, somewhere in the first 2 weeks of March when all of a sudden it became evident that COVID-19 was not only here, but here to stay for a while and going to impact companies, especially like yours in the food industry. You're talking about events, you're talking about cooking classes, you're talking about a lot of things that are not physically distanced. Talk to us and talk to the audience a little bit about some of the things that you've had to change, had to revise, had to add, and what that might look like moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely a big change for us. I mean, our whole focus of our business was bringing people together. And so all of a sudden I was like, wow, we can't bring people together, but yet they need to come together more right now than any other time that I could possibly think of. We need collaboration. We need that innovation that comes with just a relaxed environment that our previous cooking school experience was creating. So we immediately switched, and you took the least technology inclined company I probably had ever met. And that was our own company, and turned it to a very technology inclined company, and we built studios. So we built several studios out and have been doing virtual cooking classes and team building experiences all over the place right now. So we have everything from our competitive formats to our collaborative formats. We deliver and ship ingredients across the entire nation right now. We just did a 50-person cooking class for a large law firm in Seattle, where we literally shipped all the ingredients to make this beautiful chicken dinner with appetizers, wine, dessert, the whole 9 yards, all over the nation. They didn't even have one person that was based out of Seattle. And then we jumped on Zoom in our studio and taught them all how to cook. And it's a lot of fun. And so we've definitely pivoted our corporate team building experience to be a virtual one really seamlessly. And it's been a lot of fun to do.
Hey, Brad, I got a quick follow-up question, because I've got to believe, and we've talked to so many entrepreneurs who have done this. I've got to believe that even when things start settling down and we start getting back together, that virtual opportunity isn't something you're going to say, we don't have to do this anymore. It sounds like it's still something that's going to have great impact no matter what the situation is down the line. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question about that. We used to get calls from people all the time that be like, hey, I came to your cooking school in Seattle, but my company's in LA. Any chance you know anybody down here that does it? I actually got a call like that this week, and I was like, well, we can do it. Like,
That's right.
Let's do it. Where do they need to go? We'll ship it. It's not a problem in the world. We got it. And so all of a sudden we have that capacity that we never thought we would build out. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah. So that, talk us through that process. I mean, this is one of the things that we find is an attribute of what we'll call successful entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. Which is the ability to take what would be somewhat of an, just a crippling, right, situation for a lot of individuals. Because I can only imagine that knowing, the state mandated orders that we're under, that has had to have had a significant impact on the event side of things. Because I mean, we're really that really hasn't opened up, has it?
Not at all.
Right.
And I
so
think I'm sorry, I didn't remember.
No, yeah. So I'd love to know kind of what your plans are for what I'll call the recovery for that. But talk us through, kind of the process, and how long did it take you guys to kind of figure out that, if we don't do something, right, if we don't change our format, to online, we may not survive. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's a really inspiring story.
Definitely. I mean, we had our hands in so many different components of the event industry that we had to act so fast in so many different places in order to be able to maintain all of our different revenue streams that equaled Blue Ribbon. For example, we had a huge fundraiser that was at the end of the month of March. And it was like, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, this is a massive revenue stream for our company. And it's a 550 person plated dinner experience. And we had already, hired the team for it. We were ready to go for it. We, had kind of dotted every I and crossed every T. And it was like, we're going to lose this thing. And, we could lose it, but I was like, that's just not who I am. That's not who I am as a business owner. Let's get creative. So all of a sudden I said to this nonprofit, we want to still do your auction. We want to take your auction virtual, and we will take like ownership over delivering all of the dinners to all of the people that were going to attend the event with the streaming codes and everything else, so that they can jump on Zoom and you can take this auction onto Zoom. And they did. And it was incredibly successful. They made more money that year than they had ever made. And it was just an immediate win for everybody involved. Nobody lost the event. They didn't lose the opportunities. Our company didn't lose that catering job. Overall, it was just it was an incredibly quick switch, but we made it work. And we know pretty much every side street in Seattle at this point now after all those deliveries, that it was a good thing. I've learned this year, I know more about packaging, shipping, boxes, and containers than I ever thought I would need to know in my life, but it's all good info at this point. Yeah. So yeah. We were also faced up against our kids' summer cooking camp program, which is massive for us. I mean, we run through, I would say almost 500 kids in the summer. So it's a really big program. And, all of a sudden those kids that have been coming to us. I mean, some of these kids have been coming to us for 8 years. I mean, we have seen these kids grow up and now bring us corporate groups back for cooking classes. I mean, this has been my, a big part of my life is these kids' summer cooking camps. And all of a sudden we were like, wait a minute, are we going to get a chance to work with these kids this year? And so we not only just in the nick of time got approval to open up our culinary center for in-person camps, which means that we had to create basically 6-foot cooking pods for every single attendee that had all of their own equipment, all of their own stoves and burners, all of their own, like, everything. So, like, you can't share salt and pepper with another kid. You can't share a butter stick with another kid. You can't share the same spoon, utensil. Everything had to be independent for each student. And we were able to make it happen. And then also to create this screenage needed to make it a safe situation for everybody. And we also switched over and did a virtual version of our kids summer cooking camps, where we deliver the ingredients to these family homes, and they're cooking. These kids are jumping on Zoom with us and cooking dinner for their parents every single night. So it's been pretty cool to watch that as well.
So I got to tell you, you're like the poster child for innovation.
Yep.
I mean, just
it's
listen.
exhausting. It's exhausting, but I love it.
Well, here's, and I know we're going to come to a break here soon, but here's the thing that I'd like you to respond to.
Yeah.
So much change so quickly. I know that I think you have 90 employees, correct?
We're a little more than that. Yeah.
Okay. So with almost 100 employees and 3 different parts of the business, you're not I can't imagine you're in there slaving away on, at a stovetop, or you are running the business. What do you spend most of your time on today? Where is it that you are focusing all of your energy to create all of this?
This year threw me back into the trenches more than I have been in many, many, many years. And I loved it. It reminded me of why this company is what it is. And it was like, previously, if you would ask me that question last summer, I would have said, unfortunately, it's insurance. It's, like licensing. It's, dealing with billing, questions and issues. It's, general, like, me kind of thing. Now I actually have gone in there and made those virtual camp kits many times myself to say, okay, what is going on here? Why are we challenged? Why are we hitting a brick wall here? Why is it not fitting in the package? What other shapes can we use? And so my team members are like, I have never seen you here at 4 a.m. In a long time. Like, they've not seen me from 4 a.m. to 2 a.m. on a regular basis for a long time. But that's what 2020 has been all about. It's been about the business owners just saying, I love my company too much to let it fail. So right. I'm going to jump in and be super creative and figure this out. And, it means putting in long hours. It means just figuring it out. It just means saying, I'm not ready to quit.
Well, you know what we are not ready to do? We're not ready to move on without a commercial break. So we're going to take that short break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back with our guest, Vanessa Smith, for Hot or Not, so might have to change the name of it, but we're going to see if the food is hot or not. We're going to find out a little bit more about what Vanessa thinks of farm to table. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Seattle Shrimp Tank.
The Seattle Shrimp Tank is brought to you by IdealLife360.com. What would it be like to be in the best shape of your life, both physically and mentally, every day for the rest of your life? Have awesome relationships with the people you care about most. Never having to worry about money again. What would it be like if you received a letter out of the blue and suddenly discovered you had 20 more years to live than you ever imagined? What would you do with those extra years of your life? How many lives would you touch? What legacy would you leave behind? What changes would you make today knowing you had 20 more years in your future? What new, big challenges would you take on? What would be next? Text the word IDEAL to 89800 and discover how to rethink, redefine, and reinvent the best years of your life.
Welcome back to the Seattle Shrimp Tank from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the Seattle and greater Puget Sound area. I'm Brad Berger, along with my esteemed co-host, Dan Whedon. Remember, you can always catch a replay of the podcast at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you catch your podcasts, and catch us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. for our next segment, Hot or Not.
And Hot or Not is sponsored by our shrimp peeler sponsors, West Sound Workforce, Port Ludlow Resort, the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, SJ Graphics, and the Kitsap Sun newspaper. Vanessa, Hot or Not is where Brad and I pepper you with questions about business. Maybe it's about life, entrepreneurship. We want to know if you think that topic or concept is hot or not, and then why. So, teed it up, I'll just bring it right to the table. Hot or not, Vanessa, farm to table.
Hot. We got to support those local farmers. They're working so hard to bring beautiful food to our tables, and we have to take it, enjoy it, cook with it, love it, and share our support for them.
And I figured you were going to say that, give a little bit more of a message for the plug for those farmers. How are some ways that maybe other entrepreneurs that work with farm to table, how can they be even more supportive during this time?
I mean, we have to realize that there is so much produce that is going to waste at this point because people aren't dining out in restaurants. They're not using the same. Farmers plan their year based on what last year's requests were, what the demand was last year. Well, with everybody staying home this year, the demand has greatly shifted. And these people might have planted millions of dollars worth of potatoes that are not going to sell to fast food restaurants or not going to. So, it's our job as our community to make sure that we're getting our produce from our local farms. We're showing, respect for the work that they're doing, and we're paying fair dollar for those products.
So my hot or not question for you, Vanessa, is Food Network.
It's still hot. It brings excitement to my industry. I love when people are excited about food. Like, that's my number one interview question for when I meet a potential employee of mine is like, do you love food? And it's like, what are we doing here? You gotta love food. And so I love the Food Network has done an amazing, amazing job at just getting people excited. It's brought kids into the industry who are just excited to see, different chefs on TV. I mean, it's just made the cooking world a little more exposed.
And didn't I see you on the cooking channel though? Where you're one of the videos on your website is about you guys on the cooking channel, right?
We've done some stuff. We've done some stuff for Food Network. We've done some stuff for the cooking channel. We've done a lot of TV work too. And I mean, it's great. It's a great place to get out there and share what we do.
Well, Vanessa, among guilty pleasures that I have is working watching shows like the Kids, Baking Championship and that. So the question I have, considering the fact that you have kids and you have some of those camps, I guess I've got somewhat of a two-part question. Number one is, have any of your kids been on any of those shows or tried out for any of those shows? And then how exactly do those kids learn? Because it seems like they just have an incredible depth of knowledge given their age with regard to recipes and ingredients and, just kind of creativity around that. I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Definitely. I mean, so my kids right now are still pretty young. They're 2, 4, and then we have a 10-year-old. I have a 10-year-old stepdaughter as well too. So they're, we'll see. They're very interested in the kitchen. They definitely want to cook at all points in time. Sometimes you're like, okay, we've done that project. Like, let me just finish it. But they love it. They want to be a part of every component of cooking anything we make. So we'll see what happens with them in their culinary futures. But our kids, I mean, the one thing I'll say is that the excitement and the passion between some kids that we see in our kids cooking program is just unreal. I mean, they spend their afternoons watching food TV, reading cookbooks. I mean, studying true baking techniques. I mean, we run an advanced culinary French camp and an advanced baking camp. And the level that these kids come in with their knowledge in either baking or classic French cooking sometimes is intimidating for our chefs. They're like, I don't know if I have anything to bring to the table for this kid. They know everything. And it's exciting to see it. I was born and raised in a cooking school, but when I was 13, I had the opportunity to do a little bit of touring with Julia Child working on apple pies. And so it was phenomenal. And I got to work directly alongside her. It was called Kids in the Kitchen. And I would make an apple pie. She would taste it and give me feedback. And then we'd go do it again at a different place. And it was just kind of this gig. And honestly, if I wouldn't have built that foundation of that love of food at such a young age, regardless if it was Julia Child or just on my own, I don't, it just makes, it continues for the rest of your life. Eating and taking care of your body and supplying yourself with good meals is something that is just such a gift for you for the rest of your life. So the more we can get kids involved, the more we can get kids exposed to great ingredients, the healthier our nation will be later.
Awesome.
All right, so hot or not, and this is, I want to know because this is something I want to know in my own cooking. Hot or not, being experimental with your cooking and your seasoning and your trying stuff versus following a strict recipe.
Definitely hot. I hate following a recipe.
That's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that.
Pretty much the only class that I still, well, as I used to still teach is cooking without recipes, because I literally refuse. I mean, I'm sitting here on my desk with a bunch of recipes and they just sit to the side. Like, I refuse to read them, probably to a fault. I'll like glance at the title, glance at the description or the ingredients, and I hope there's a picture because that's about the only thing that engages me. And then the rest of it's like, we got this. We'll make it happen. Like,
I'm going to ask you this because this happens to us, unfortunately, more than it should. We forget to take something out of the freezer, right?
Absolutely.
And it's like 4 o'clock and we look at each other and say, what are we going to do for dinner? And then you have to kind of go do the whole chop thing. You have to go find something. What is one of them, and this isn't Plead the Fifth yet, what's one of the most unique things maybe you and your husband have had to do at the last minute? You got kids going, everybody's hungry. And it's like, this is our business, but we have nothing to eat. What's something that you would cook up on the spur of the moment?
We had a good one. The other day we were having another couple over, and with their child that our kids have kind of been like socially, socially distanced partnered with. And I realized that I did not wrap my head around dinner at all. I'm racing here. It's 6:30 and they're supposed to be coming at 6:30. And my husband, who is a chef, is like, what are we going to do? And I was like, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. I have no idea. And I opened the freezer and there's chicken tenders. And I'm like, we're having chicken parmigiana. And I literally took fresh mozzarella, canned marinara sauce, and made the most makeshift chicken parmigiana out of frozen chicken tenders. But you know what? The kids ate every single bite.
Right, Vanessa,
issue there. So
you just gave me an idea because we always have chicken nuggets in our freezer, and I never thought about mixing the spaghetti. Thank you very much, Brad. Your next question. I'm going to sit back and now think about what I'm going to do for dinner tonight.
Well, you've just given, of course, Dan, a license to cook all sorts of concoctions now. So you're welcome to bring stuff to the studio, Vanessa. Dan, you are not. But the question I've got, Vanessa, we've talked a little bit about, I think, I would think that the, cooking network and cooking shows and that has just been phenomenal marketing for you. And when you get into marketing, there's always somebody who's looking for an angle. What do you think is the worst kitchen appliance ever created? And what do you think is the best kitchen appliance or gadget? It could be a gadget or an appliance that's ever been invented.
You guys are going to get me into trouble here because I've been on to be a spokesperson for some of this stuff. So I'm like,
We're not even into Plead the Fifth yet. We've already started early.
Wait till we get there. This is a preview.
I'm not a kitchen gadget person. It's crazy. If you went into our home kitchen, there's it would look like a college dorm room kitchen. I mean, it's very simple. We love good knives. We love good slotted spoons. We love a good whisk. But we don't have a KitchenAid at home. We don't have a cuisine. We keep it so lean because there's nothing to me more offsetting than just not having space and a clean open counter to work with. And so honestly, it's like I said, I've done some spokeswork for different appliances, but do I own them in my home? No, they're a blue ribbon if I need to borrow them, but not really. We're pretty much we want whipped cream at home, we whip it with a whisk, by hand. We're pretty, we don't own a lot of extras. And so I love the Microplane. You guys familiar with the Microplane?
No.
Okay, it's a grater, zester, you can use nutmeg. It's an old wood kind of wood raft, and it which for shaving, but they now have made it into, it's like one of my favorite kitchen tools. And it's you can like you zest any citrus with it. You can use a great Parmesan grater. Like it's just a really good tool.
For making chicken Parmigiana.
Exactly. Out of frozen chicken strips. Yeah.
There you go. Hey, I've got one I want to get in before the break, Brad, if it's okay.
Absolutely, go
because
for it.
this is a hot or not that I wanted from an entrepreneurial standpoint get from you. Hot or not, responding to negative comments on Yelp, because we know that people can be somewhat brutal, even on Yelp because they're the keyboard warriors, right?
Yeah.
What is your thought on that? Because it's so important, especially in your industry.
Absolutely. And, especially the bride industry it's very important there because it's a one-shot deal for people. So they want to hear how other brides experience working with us. Whenever we've had any sort of issue on Yelp, my first thing to do is to try to track down the person and call them. I'm a people person. I don't enjoy I don't appreciate the courage that comes from hiding behind a keyboard. So my thing is I'll try to get a hold of them directly and be like, hey, can we chat? Like, what happened here? How can I fix it? Let's try to figure that out. And that's always worked incredibly well for me. Like a lot of times after a chat of any sort of issue, the reviews came down or it's been edited. So, that's a big piece of advice that I give everybody is try to get a hold of the person, try to connect with them one-on-one, and then kind of go from there. But yes, you should definitely respond if you don't have any other options. I always look at responses when I'm looking at reviews. So, I would definitely put the effort in. I think it's a good business strategy and shows that you care a lot.
Well, Vanessa, it's obviously very clear you've built something incredibly special, and clearly you've got some gravitas. Anybody who's had some time to spend around Julia Childs, of course, many listeners I'm sure know, some may not, and all I would encourage people to do is if you don't know who Julia Childs is, Google it, because that just must have been an incredible honor to work alongside somebody like that. But as an entrepreneur, what kind of marketing have you done? What's worked well? What's not worked so well as you've tried to build and you've been able to build Blue Ribbon Cooking?
Yeah, I have been so blessed that up until this year, we were 80% word of mouth and referrals from previous clients. Blessed. Honestly, I didn't even have a massive marketing budget. It was very minor. I didn't have a marketing team or anything like that. With the shift in the COVID experience, we have a phenomenal mailing list, but all of a sudden I'm like, okay, what would a little bit of marketing do? And how do you market in these times? And that's actually a conversation I was just having today with one of our senior managers is like, I don't even know where to start. Like, what do we do here if we wanted to open up into marketing? So, I definitely, I think the biggest thing, especially for new people to the business world, is just to get your name out there. When I first started, I wanted to do weddings. Like when I was young and joining the industry, and I all of a sudden just started, I went from our company did 3 weddings one year to 275 the next year because I decided I want to do weddings. And did I do all of those weddings at a huge profit margin? Absolutely not. I did those weddings so that I could get 250 excited brides about the services that I did out there telling other brides. I did it, I covered my costs, but they weren't the biggest profit market makers ever. So I think it's, you just got to get your name out there. And sometimes that doesn't mean you're charging exactly what you would like to, but you're just getting people to know who you are and the quality of services that you offer.
And I think that's great advice. And I know that we're going to get kicked to commercial. We'll come back.
Yeah, I'm the bad guy. We got to go to commercial, which means we're getting closer to the end, which I'm not happy about, but we do need to pay the bills, right? So let me put my glasses on so I can do this right. We're going to take a short break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back with our guest, Vanessa Smith from Blue Ribbon Cooking for our famous Plead the Fifth section of the show, we're going to find out from Vanessa what her walk-up song is. Think about that, Vanessa. What your walk-up song is. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more from the Seattle Shrimp Tank.
The Seattle Shrimp Tank is brought to you by our studio sponsor, Unweed and Unleashed. As a business owner, you don't have a professional life and a personal life. You have a life. And that life is full of opportunities and obstacles. Your business is the vehicle to fuel your life. If you run out of fuel because of a crisis, then your entire lifestyle is affected. Dan Whedon works with small and medium-sized business owners to ensure that no calamity is fatal. Dan focuses on accelerating business growth while at the same time planning, implementing strategies on preventing, mitigating, and recovering those obstacles of business and life. Through his consulting work and his partnership with First Underwriters Insurance to finance your risk, he'll make sure you can, with confidence, unleash the value of your business and lifestyle. To get a complimentary review of your situation, call Dan at 360-271-1592. Again, that's 360-271-1592. Or email Dan at dan@danwhedon.com. Tell Dan you heard him on the Seattle Shrimp Tank podcast and receive a 20% discount on any work that you agree to. Be unleashed and be well.
Welcome back to the Seattle Shrimp from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the Seattle and greater Puget Sound area. I'm Brad Berger, along with my co-host Dan Whedon, and you can always catch a replay of the podcast at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. We are available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. For our next segment, Plead the Fifth.
And Plead the Fifth is sponsored by our Shrimp Peelers West Sound Workforce, Port Ludlow Resort, Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, SJ Graphics, and the Kitsap Sun newspaper. Vanessa, we're turning up the burners. We're turning up the heat on this one. Plead the Fifth means you can fair catch. You can fair catch. You can plead the fifth, but only once. So choose wisely. So I said something about a walk-up song. I don't know if you know what a walk-up song in baseball is, but when they announced, like when Ken Griffey Jr. came out, they would play his song when he walked up to the plate. And that's called the walk-up song. And so I've always had this kind of walk-up song from, I put the apron on, I'm ready to make my duck tacos, or I also make taco de lengua. Beef. I love it. So I got to get fired up. I put my apron on and my headphones are on, and I fire up Metallica, Enter Sandman. So Enter Sandman is my walk-up song for cooking. You may or may not have one, but I'm going to ask you right now. You just put the apron on. You're gonna get fired up. What gets you fired up? What song you're gonna be playing in your ears?
So I have a tendency to get us in so deep over our heads, like where I'll just stack us up with events after events after events and take on the most challenging things because I just love a challenge. And I'm also a huge boxing fan, so I'd have to say Eye of the Tiger. And so it's like everything is always like, are we gonna make it? Are we gonna make it? So that's kind of, I would think, like, and then it's like, we made it. What do we got this.
Love it. Love it. Eye of the Tiger. Very nice. Very nice.
Well, Vanessa, my Plead the Fifth question actually is going to come after you answer the first part of my question, and that is, other than Julia Childs, who is the most well-known chef that you've ever met?
Marco Samuelson. Marco Samuelson was a good one.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, we're huge fans. We've traveled for his food. His food's amazing.
He's in Harlem. He's in Harlem, right?
Harlem, yes.
Yeah.
If you ever have the chance to go, he's definitely, I've met all the local Seattle ones. Most of them, I'd say, and had a chance to work with them. But I'm a big fan of where Marcus goes. So.
How about any of the TV celebrity chefs?
Honestly, we had Duff, the cake guy, into Blue Ribbon a year and a half ago. I actually just ran into a bunch of the stuff he left us yesterday, funny enough. And he was great. A super nice guy, just really fun. He taught cake decorating. We all enjoyed it. He was great too. Totally down to earth, great guy.
Okay. Well,
Marcus Samuelson is on the Food Network.
He is, yeah.
I guess the Plead the Fifth, the question I was going to ask is, and who had an ego, bigger than a city block? But it sounds like you have a positive opinion of both of these individuals.
Yeah, every chef has an ego. Like, that's the bottom line. And I'm married to one too. Like, let's get this. Every chef has an ego, and they all, because they love what they do or they wouldn't do it. I mean, the culinary world is not the most high paying, position out there. And so you have to truly love what you do and think you're good to be able to be successful in it. So.
Well, speaking of that, I will just share with you, and you can provide whatever commentary you want. But I've told my wife a number of times that even though I've never met any of these celebrity chefs, the one that I have the absolute most respect for is Bobby Flay.
Yeah.
And the reason is his show, Beat Bobby Flay, I think takes just a tremendous amount of guts, right? To basically say, I'm not just a panelist. I'm not just a critic. I'm not just a judge. It's not like I've made it, right? But I'm willing to prove to you and put my skills up against yours and put my, put it on the line. To basically say, and I just have a phenomenal amount of admiration for someone who's willing to kind of prove it.
Play,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
And play all out. And it sounds like that's what you have been doing too with your company.
Yeah, and I think another thing I'll say is, a chef, especially a restaurant owning chef, there's multiple sides to them, just like there is, myself or any business owner too. It's like they've got to not only be able to cook great food, but they've got to be able to handle the business side of the business as well. Sure. And I have so much respect for a lot of our local chefs, big name local chefs that have said, this year about like truly what's going on in the pandemic and how that's affecting the restaurant industry and their staff and the people they've had to furlough and the effects, and that the way they're handling it is been really great to see. Like, just so much respect for this industry and the food world.
I think I have a fun Plead the Fifth for you. I think I have a fun one, Vanessa.
Okay.
You mentioned how many weddings you do.
Yes.
You don't have to obviously mention client names, but at some point you must have had some sort of a bridezilla encounter.
I knew this was coming.
So at some point,
you mean every week?
Can you share the oddest, craziest, strangest bridezilla event that you've had?
I don't. There's not even. There's no way. I mean, I literally could write. Everybody keeps telling me when I'm done with events, it's a book on weddings. I mean, these stories are insane. The things that people do related to weddings are insane. I mean, we've had bomb threats. We've had somebody steal a wedding cake. We've had, this stuff is just so unreal. We've had people lie and say they're having a 50-person wedding and they've had 850 people show up. I mean,
when did you find out that the 50 went to 850? Like when you got there?
When people were eating off of pieces of foil that they stole out of the back of our box truck. Like, it's just, and then pizzas just kept coming that they were ordering to feed their guests, but they didn't want to pay for every single one of them. I mean, it's the things that happen in the wedding world is just the most, like, there's not even words to describe it. But it is also one of the most rewarding industries you can be in. I mean, we're working with people on that, is the happiest day of their life to date, most likely. And we get to be a part of that and a part of that celebration, and we love it. But it definitely brings out a little bit of the crazy. I mean, I was dealing with one today all day, and it's like the crazy in people where, you're just like, if you could hear yourself, oh my gosh, if you could hear yourself, So.
Yeah, but I think that takes a special person, right? Yeah. To be able to deal with that, and understand that that may be crazy, but it's important, and it may not be what I would do, but I'm not the client.
Totally. I've got a guy I was working with recently. He's had the same deposit with us with 4 different brides, and he keeps moving it because they never actually get married. And I was just thinking, like, this is a new world. Like, it's a new world.
So I got one more. I know we're right at the end, Brad. I got one more.
You got it. Go for it.
And then I'm going to turn it back over to you to send us out. Got to know. You've talked about all the great foods you've made and farm to table and all of that. You probably have to have a guilty pleasure junk food. What is your guilty pleasure junk food?
I love ice cream. Like, it's not even just, I mean, it is like the end. I can't, like, and the worst part is it's Dairy Queen ice cream too. It's not the good stuff. It is like, I will drive, there's like none left in Seattle. I will drive to Redmond, and we live like downtown, close down. I mean, Edmonds, I don't care. Like, at certain days, you're just like, I need a DQ. Like, that is, so.
Well, that's awesome. Vanessa, I want to tell you, this has just been so fun. This could go on for hours, I'm sure. We want to thank you so much for coming on the program today. For our listeners that want to get in touch with you or learn more about your company, how can they get in touch with you or get that information?
Absolutely. I'd love to chat with them. Our website is www.blueribboncooking.com, and all of our other contact information's on there. And I respond to emails myself, so it's just Vanessa@blueribboncooking.com, or you'll hear from one of my amazing team members as well.
Awesome. Well, for our listeners and for you, Vanessa, and for your brother, our next show will be from Eden Unleashed Studio, and it'll be Wednesday, September 9th. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here. We'll wish everybody a great rest of the summer and Labor Day weekend. And our guest on September 9th will be Bob Miguel with Tilting Motor Works. Make sure you check out all of the replays of the Shrimp Tank at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle, and wherever you listen to your podcast. We're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and of course, we're on iTunes. And remember, to become a shark, we all start out as shrimps.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.